This Commodore 64 has just been spray painted, and some will say it's now ruined. But fear not, for this color change is completely reversible. Painting a vintage computer. It can be done to cover up repair damage, discoloration, or simply for aesthetic purposes. Needless to say, the practice and sometimes the results can be polarizing. Today, I'm going to try an experiment using a temporary removable coating and also talk a bit about proper technique and best practices when using spray paint. You may have heard of PlastiDip before. Originally developed as a synthetic rubber coating for hand tools, PlastiDip has, over the last decade, become a very popular method of temporarily changing the color of a car or truck. The product is applied just like spray paint, either from a rattle can or with a powered sprayer. There are thousands of color combinations to choose from, including everything from mattes to color shift pearls. Over the years, I've used PlastiDip several times to give my vintage car a new look and cover up collision damage incurred at the racetrack. The product is inexpensive, lasts a couple years under normal conditions, and peels right off when no longer wanted, leaving the original finish intact. On the surface, it seems like dip might be a good alternative to permanently painting your retro computer. This might be a bad idea, but there's only one way to find out. PlastiDip is designed to peel off cleanly, leaving the original finish intact. In order to do so, a sufficient layer of the product must be built up. That means we want to prevent overspray reaching any area we don't intend to paint. I'm masking all of the holes and vents to prevent small amounts of product getting inside where it will be more difficult to remove later. Another thing to keep in mind is that we don't want any of the spray getting into hard to reach areas where it will be a pain to get at when it comes time to remove it, so take that into consideration when choosing a project. Some machines may have too many surface features to work around. Flat, smooth parts are ideal. Before we get started, let's talk about proper painting technique. What I'm going to demonstrate today will apply whether you're using spray paint or PlastiDip in either a rattle can or a powered sprayer. No matter what you're painting, it all starts with the prep work. Any contaminants or oils on the surface will affect paint adhesion and finish quality, so it's of critical importance to properly clean, dry, and degrease your workpiece before applying paint. Here, I'm using a mild degreaser designed specifically for PlastiDip application that is safe for plastic and rubber components. Ideally, you'll want to paint when the temperature is at least 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 Celsius and humidity is low. If it's colder, you can warm up your paint in advance by storing it indoors or giving it a bath in warm water before use. This will improve atomization of the product, resulting in a more even finish. When using spray cans, make sure you shake the paint well before starting, between coats, and periodically during use. When using a sprayer, swirl the pot frequently to prevent the suspended particles from settling out. Just as important, make sure you clean the nozzle of your sprayer between every coat to prevent uneven spray, unwanted splatter, and the dreaded paint boogers. Now let's look at a few do's and don'ts of painting. First of all, always check your spray pattern on a piece of paper before you start painting your work. This is your opportunity to practice and dial in your technique before ruining your project. Ideally, you'll want to hold the can 6 to 10 inches or 15 to 25 centimeters from your workpiece. Too close and you'll get runs. Too far and the paint can dry in flight and create unwanted texture and poor adhesion. Never start the flow of paint while pointing at your workpiece. The initial burst will be uneven and may cause splatter. Whatever the heck this is, don't do it. Now let's look at the correct technique. To achieve even coverage, start each pass off the end of your workpiece and finish past the other end. Maintain proper distance, keeping the spray can perpendicular to your work at all times. Control how much paint is applied by adjusting your speed, not distance. Ideally, try for a 50% overlap of the previous pass for the best result. Okay, now that we've covered the basics, let's get this thing started. The color I'm using is left over from the last time I dipped my car. It starts with a matte black base coat and is finished with a clear top coat that has been blended with deep sea blue pearls from KP Pigments. Just like with the cans, we want to dial in our spray pattern on some paper first. This sprayer is meant for covering large areas, not detail work, so it's not ideally suited for this project. But it's what I have, and this is an experiment anyway, so full speed ahead. To get proper peelability, it's absolutely critical to lay down enough product. I'm going to do 6 base coats and follow it up with 4 top coats. The biggest mistake first-time dippers make is not putting down enough base, even if the coverage looks good. If it's not thick enough, it won't peel off properly, which will leave you with a big mess to deal with later on. Okay, I've completed my base and top coats and let it cure overnight. I've started to remove the masking and things are looking pretty good in terms of overspray. If you do get dip where you don't want it, it can often be rubbed off with just a finger. Mineral spirits on a microfiber cloth work great as well, but be careful when using solvents on plastic and take care not to ruin the finish on your freshly painted project, as solvents will instantly dissolve PlastiDip. One thing that didn't come out as well as I would have liked were the vents. The dip adhered to the masking tape, and removing it caused tears, resulting in a few jagged edges. Next time, I may try cutting up a polyethylene bag and taping the material over the vents, which should prevent overspray while also keeping dip from bonding to the backing. PlastiDip can be peeled away cleanly from areas where there's a slight gap. Unfortunately, that's not the case here, so I'm scoring the dip gently so I can tear it away. I was hoping there'd be a gap around each of the badges, and I didn't want to have to do this. Next time, it might be better to remove the badges before spraying and reapply them afterwards, but I'm not sure if that can be done without damaging them. All in all, the results aren't too bad for a first attempt, but a few mistakes were made along the way. Spray paint, and PlastiDip especially, are self-leveling and pretty forgiving. I've summarized some best practices for spray painting below in the description, and following them will yield smoother, shinier, longer-lasting results, whether you're painting lawn furniture or an entire car. Dip Coat is a product you can use to help protect your finished work. It reduces scratching, UV damage, and gives the surface a slicker feel. Since PlastiDip is basically a synthetic rubber coating, expect your case to feel a bit grippy, like the surface of a basketball. So, without further ado, here's the moment you've all been waiting for. You didn't think I'd just end this episode without peeling off the dip, did you? Well, I want to enjoy the 64's new color for a while longer. I did spray this test piece in order to demonstrate the removal process. It should be just this easy to return the 64 back to its original color. I'll post project updates on Twitter about the durability of the finish and any problems I encounter when it comes time to peel the machine. So there we have it, a PlastiDip Commodore 64. I'm pretty happy with how this first attempt turned out, but there's certainly room for improvement, especially in the masking around the vents and badges. Using a glossy finish on the bread bin's textured surface highlights the imperfections more than I care for. But this was a learning experience, and with practice it'll come out better next time. Let me know in the comments what you think and how your PlastiDip projects turn out. I hope you enjoyed this bit. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Retro Bits.